Hello and welcome to a non-muted version of Blind Eye Live. I am your host, Blind Eye himself, Hunter King, owner and proprietor of Blind Eye Media, a small, very small internet media firm. And this is the April 19th edition of Blind Eye Live. It is a Monday. And apparently my microphone was muted for some or the entirety of the intro to my stream that I just started. So closed that down, deleted that forever, and here we are with the actual official stream. Oh, anyway, so So we're going to get into Deshaun Watson filing his legal response against the 22 lawsuits against him. We are going to get into Aldon Smith having a warrant out for his arrest. Again, we've been on this song and dance for over half a decade now with this guy. And we've got more. We're going to get in some NBA and NFL, other NFL-related news. I might talk some draft stuff. Before we get into that, here's the plan for the next couple weeks. I am working on setting up a live stream that I will be doing with a group of buddies to watch the NFL draft. At least the first round. We're going to do the first round. We have a group message that we are constantly talking about stuff in. Every year during the draft, we watch and we're texting each other and we're trying to predict picks. We're, reacting to stuff, giving our opinions, that kind of thing. Because we're all really, really nerdy sports fans. One of our crew is actually a coach, so. But anyway, hopefully that'll be in the works for next Thursday night. I might do some kind of test stream in that interim period, just to see if we can get the Discord thing working before then, obviously. So maybe looking out for some random evening stream before that. Maybe this weekend. We shall see. If you also have noticed, there is nothing behind me in frame, basically, because I am moving. So I've gotten most of my stuff moved, but I have to run some cables to my new spot. I'm setting that up, or basically I'm running like a much more optimized setup for streaming and stuff, so I don't have moments where my stream goes down as some streams I go, I think, without any, but occasionally I'll have streams where I have 1 to 2 to 3 like hiccups during the streams. So I'm setting it up to where I don't have to worry about that. So, and I'm going to have a better setup over there just in terms of having more desk space, things of that nature. So, exciting times in the life of Blind Eye. So, with that being said, the only thing in this room right now is my TV, PC, Xbox setup. I guess you could call it my gaming streaming setup. And I have a shelf off along one wall. But that'll probably be moved this evening, so. Not sure how long it's going to take for the cables to come in. I had to order some custom cables and stuff. But eventually I'll be in the new space, and that will be very obvious once I'm in the new space. Or at least it should be mostly obvious. So, anyway, I'm excited. With that being said, I guess I have one other note. So I've finished the team by team draft primers. I know someone has mentioned to me that I have not finished my top tens by positions. I might redo all of those because some players have moved around for me. And of course, some of the positions I haven't gotten to necessarily. But I'm working on a more proper draft board type thing that I'll probably, or that I'm hoping to have. Well, I would like to have a truly full draft board down by the time the draft comes around, rather than just like some top 50 or top 100. I'd like to be at least 200 to 250 players deep. Like, but separating guys further. The thing is, separating people like the further you go down is like kind of hard, and at a certain point, there's no point. Because like once you get past like the top 100 and what, like the top 100, 150, or somewhere like in that 120 to 150 range, when you're giving fifth round grades for guys, those guys could go undrafted. And guys with medical concerns, it doesn't matter how good they are, could drop multiple rounds, could go undrafted. I've had guys that I thought were third round prospects who've gone completely undrafted. I've had guys who I thought were first round players fall because of medical issues. I want to make sure I get his name right. Maurice Hurst, defensive tackle out of Michigan, who plays for the Raiders. I had a late first, early second round grade on him as a player. And that was mostly because of the medical concern. I figure he would have been a late round or a late, maybe a mid first round pick if he hadn't had that weird, what was it, a heart issue come up at the combine, which I think ended up being overblown or whatever. I can't remember if he fell to the fourth or the fifth round, but he fell to day 3 in the draft. That's one of the reasons Montez Sweat fell to 31 overall a couple years back, was because he had some kind of weird heart thing come up during the draft process as well that ended up being bunk. But that's how because I think it was 31st that he ended up going. Like the Washington football team traded back into the first round to get him at an insane value because he was a top 10 prospect from my view. Which it's crazy because I get why, but that, which ended up being bunk, hurt him more than it hurt Jeffrey Simmons, who I had rated directly ahead of him on my big board that year. Jeffrey Simmons, I thought, was a top 5 player in the draft. He fell all the way to the Titans at, I think it was pick 19 in the first round. If it wasn't 19, it was like 20, 21, but I think it was pick 19. And he was, because he tore his ACL getting ready for the NFL Combine. So he was going to miss time, and he ended up coming back either sometime in October or it was the beginning of November, and was actually really important come playoff time that year. And particularly in that was 2019. So yeah, he was really big in the win against Baltimore in the playoffs in 2019. So anyway, with that being said, I'm hoping to have some content, or to really get that kind of content up and ready to roll, and that I can put up on stream, whatever. I'm thinking about starting like some kind of either website or find some kind of blogging site or whatever to put this content up on. I've thought about doing like a Patreon or some kind of alternative to Patreon, maybe locals, where people pay for a membership, but I'm like a nobody, so I don't know if I could get necessarily anybody would really want to pay like $5 a month or something like that to get my draft board or whatever. But that is something that will be a thing in the future. I'm working on building like a Discord server and eventually doing like call-ins. So that is in the future of the show. Like eventually I would like to have this to be an interactive experience where people can call in the show. I might have, and I'm thinking about setting up an alternate Discord server and having, or like in the future specific shows where just anyone could potentially call in the show rather than just people who are members of my Discord. But at the same time, I would like people to be invested in my show and enjoy the show being the callers, so that people don't just jump on here and try to get me banned off of YouTube by saying just completely heinous stuff. So anyway, with that being said, let's get into the news of the day. Sorry, I gotta get my stuff set up here. Okay. And boom, change scene. So, first big story of the day, we've got that's a big story day. Alex Smith has announced his retirement from football. I don't necessarily know if it was his choice, though, because, well, where is it? There it is. Yeah. So let's start with these. This is just some of the main headlines here. But yeah, so before I get into the Aldon Smith thing, Alex Smith retires from the NFL. Alex Smith, really, really great career, in my opinion, considering a lot of the hardships he had to go through. I'm going to switch back here. Alex Smith had to go through, I think in his like first 5 seasons, he went through 4 offensive coordinators and maybe 5 in his like first 6 seasons in the NFL. It was something crazy like that. And then once Jim Harbaugh came to town, Alex Smith had become kind of a solid quarterback option, but he was playing really, really good football before he got, I think it was a concussion, or if it wasn't a concussion, it was like a rib injury or something during the 2013 season, I think it was. It was or maybe it was 2012. Might have been 2012. Whichever year that the Ravens beat the Niners in the Super Bowl, Colin Kaepernick eventually takes over. The offense becomes a little more dynamic with Kaepernick at quarterback. Smith never gets a starting job back, and that offseason they trade him to Kansas City. Kansas City joins that team with Andy Reid. He has the best stretch of his career. Plays a borderline MVP level season in what was Mahomes' rookie year? That was 2017. So they draft Mahomes in the first round. Alex Smith goes on to have this just ridiculous year. Well, I say ridiculous. I mean, it was a really just solid season. He wouldn't have won the MVP if Wentz hadn't gotten hurt, and then I think eventually the MVP went to who was it? Did Tom Brady win the MVP that year? See, this is 2017. I'd actually have to look that up. But I want to say like his stats kind of curtailed for like towards the end of the season, but like 12 weeks in the year, he was solidly like top 3 in the race. So I mean, he had an excellent year, playing the best football of his career. And at the end of the year, of course, or over the offseason, they trade him to the Redskins. They decide they're going with Patrick Mahomes as their starting quarterback. Which, that's the other thing. Alex Smith didn't start their last game of the season. They had locked in a playoff berth. They gave Patrick Mahomes the start against the Raiders, and he looked pretty freaking good for a rookie who had not played all season. And that was enough that they decided to go with him. And then, of course, that next year, Mahomes in his first year as a starter throws for over 5,000 yards, or 50 touchdowns, wins the league MVP award. And in November of that season, Alex Smith, of course, has the most devastating leg injury I think I've ever seen. Well, and I want to say, like, and if I'm not mistaken, Mackenzie Milton also got hurt. Wasn't that the year that Mackenzie Milton got hurt, like, in their last game or next to last game of the season, of the regular season, with that crazy leg injury he had? If not, that was 2019 for Milton, but I want to say that was 2018. But 2020 was so long that it makes everything seem forever ago. But anyway, I think it was, November 11th of 2018, something like that. Second Sunday in November, Smith has just that devastating leg break, and he gets rushed to the hospital, has to have ends up having, surgeries. I think multiple surgeries. But then he starts having incredible necrosis of the muscle tissue in his lower leg. And I want to say he goes through 17 surgeries, nearly dies. And the necrosis was so bad that they were basically talking about potentially having to amputate it, in which, of course, he's in such bad shape. He can't even be a part of these conversations for the most part. His wife, having to tell doctors. There's a great documentary on it. I think it was called Project 11. That ESPN did. But she's she doesn't care if he has his full leg. She just wants him to live, But they're able to save it, of course. I mean, this is one of the most inspiring stories in recent NFL, or recent, not even just sports, but recent history. So he ends up they end up bringing him down to San Antonio, Texas. I say bringing him down because, he's up, at this point around the Washington area, or D.C., or he was playing for the Redskins. They bring him down to Texas, kind of near my neck of the woods. I say near. San Antonio's several hours away, but anyway, they take him to, there's a huge, really state-of-the-art Air Force hospital there, where they basically send the most severe, cases the military has. And he gets there, and they basically are like, you look like you've gone through, a brutal IED explosion. That's what your leg looks like. And they're talking about, even at this point, they've stopped the necrosis. They have this special cast on him that all the pressure is put from the exterior. Or, it's not like your typical cast, because they're having to keep everything pressed together more. and they have to keep like a certain type of soft layer around the leg rather than like a hard cast. It looks like some space age nonsense that was on his leg. But anyway, I wish I could describe the type of cast, but I'm not a medical expert. And I don't have it up in front of me. But I just want to talk about Alex Smith's story. I'm sorry. So, of course, they have Alex Smith go, and they also do some, like, counseling type sessions of, like, look, it's still not a guarantee that this is all going to recover. It's like you still may want to consider amputating it and going with prosthetics. And we have such great advanced prosthetics now that seriously, if it's going to be better for your health long term. However, if you're going to attack if you're going to continue to attack keeping your leg and rehabbing and trying to rebuild, they basically just walk him through that process and how arduous it's going to be. This man went through one of the most ridiculous rehabs probably any athlete has ever gone through. And they had to take muscle from like different parts and tendons and stuff from different parts of his body to kind of rebuild his calf because he lost so much muscle tissue and so much other stuff from just this ridiculous, like, just mass death of tissue in his leg. And he ended up having to, like, wear special shoes or cleats, kind of similar to some guys who've had nerve issues, like something similar to, but I think a little more hardcore than what Jalen Smith had. The former Notre Dame linebacker, current Dallas Cowboys linebacker, who was like a top 10 prospect in the draft before a late season broken leg, which ended up causing some nerve damage, which affected his foot, which I think over time that has gotten better and better. I don't know if he still has to wear the specialized cleat anymore, but he couldn't really like pick up his foot. And that was something Alex Smith was dealing with during most of his rehab process. I don't know if he'll ever have the ability to, like, there's like a tendon or something that was lost or that they had to move to somewhere else that was more important, but he has to wear a specialized kind of shoe or cleat, or at least he was. Maybe that's not a problem anymore. I just remember at the time he was having to wear the special cleat that kept his feet up when he would, and kept it from like dangling when he would pick up his leg. So he had to go through just an extensive rehab process. And going into last year, and he had signed a contract extension with the Redskins going into that 2018 season. It was like a 4-year deal worth, I want to say $70-something million, something like that, on top of the contract, the year that he already, and money that he had left on his deal at the time. And basically had guaranteed money for through the 2020 season. I think pretty much all the money he had guaranteed through the 2020 season. So last year, he's still on the Redskins roster. But he's ready to play. Like, he shows up for training camp, he's going through workouts. But, of course, the organization didn't want him to play because no one wanted to see him get hurt again. No one wants to see anyone get hurt again who's had, oh, I had a blip there. I don't know if I was out for a bit there, but, typically your bones, when they break, grow back stronger. Now, I don't necessarily know. I've never been through, like, a multiple, like, fracture break like his was or whatever. And spiral fractures can be different, but except for like your clavicle and collarbone, because the clavicle is like your shoulder blade, right? And then your collarbone. I think those are the two that tend to break again the most often. And broken bones in your feet can be tough because you're constantly putting so much pressure on it to move around. But typically once they're healed, I think they're good. But those are the three to worry about. But most of your bones, they grow back stronger. Like they heal and fuse back together stronger than they were before, typically, is my understanding of human anatomy. So if there's a doctor or anything that, or someone who knows differently and can maybe cite a source for me, I'll take that back. But that's how I understand it. So to me, that's a little bit of a cop out that, well, you're just wanting to move on from this guy. So they traded for Kyle Allen that offseason. They had drafted Dwayne Haskins in the first round of the 2019 draft, which was a bad pick at the time. I don't care what anyone says. He was just a surefire, this guy's not going to work out kind of person for me. And so far, he's proven it. Doesn't have the mentality. So Haskins, goes into the season as the starter, blows it. Kyle Allen takes over and was okay, but then he gets hurt. So Haskins gets the job back and then finds a way to blow that opportunity. And here they are. And they throw Alex Smith in the game. Because I think Kyle Allen had come back, but he got hurt again or something. And so Alex Smith is having to come into the game against the Rams and Aaron Donald. And he got sacked multiple times during the game, I believe. But one in particular, Aaron Donald just decides, I'm just going to piggyback on top of Alex Smith. And not only does Alex Smith not, just crumple in a heap and break his leg again, actually, he holds up Donald for a while and then goes down pretty, and goes down and then just stands up. Because Alex Smith is bad to the freaking bone. Unintended pun there. Anyway, so Alex Smith gets up. He didn't play great statistically last year, but he didn't make a bunch of terrible mistakes. They only lost one game that he started last year, and they end up being the last team standing they end up being the team with the best terrible record. Or best losing record in the AFC East last year. Because I think they finished 7-9. And won that division. If it wasn't 7-9, it was 8-8, but I'm pretty sure it was 7-9. Because no one wanted to win the AFC East last year, apparently, except the Redskins. And they were arguably the worst team in the division to start the season. And then Alex Smith comes in, and their defense is amazing. And they're able to pull out wins because after he became the quarterback there, they had easily a winning record. Of course, by playoff time though, they decided to start so far career backup Tyler Hinkie from I believe it's Oral Roberts Old Dominion University. Which he was a beast in college at Old Dominion, by the way. Like, two-threat beast of a quarterback at the FCS level. So, and he honestly scared the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In that they played Tampa Bay pretty close during that game. And, of course, the Redskins have re-signed him. But Alex Smith had an incredible year. Won comeback player of the year. Didn't win it unanimously because some bumbling fool of an idiot decided, actually, I think it should go to someone who actually had better statistical production than Alex Smith, so I'm going to vote for Ben Roethlisberger because he had an elbow surgery over the offseason. Or because he had an elbow injury last year, had to recover from. That's why the Steelers, like, last season were kind of terrible on offense, was because they were flipping between Mason Rudolph and Duck Rogers. Or was it Duck Rogers or Duck Hodges? Duck Hodges. All season. Or was it Buck Hodges? His name was Devlin Hodges. They called him Duck or Buck. I can't remember. Whatever. But anyway. So Roethlisberger, I mean, which, yeah, he came back. He had a pretty good season, although towards the end of the year he kind of nosedived like he has been doing for years in the second halves of seasons. And, I mean, yeah, he came back from an elbow surgery. Oh, goodness. A surgery that tons of athletes come back from. Alex Smith nearly died and came back and saved a team's season and led them to the playoffs. They were arguably the worst team in football that was not the Jets and the Jaguars over the first half of the season. And they came back. Well, and I guess you could say the Texans too. The Texans were pretty bad. But anyway, this was a team that was destined for a top 5 pick. Alex Smith and that defense led them to the playoffs in a kind of a special scenario, but still, they were able to win their division. How do you not vote for that man for Comeback Player of the Year? I don't care that Ben Roethlisberger threw for more yards. He didn't nearly die. It would have been one thing, like, when he had that motorcycle accident and, you know, that caused him to, like, have multiple fractures in, like, his face and jaw and among other things. But even still, I would have still voted for Alex Smith in that scenario because Roethlisberger brought it upon himself, that accident. Whereas Smith did nothing but choose to go to work one day and some guy decided to wreck his leg. And then craziness ensued at the hospital. So, I'm just saying, somehow Alex Smith was not Comeback Player of the Year. So, anyway, like I said, so Smith has this crazy year, and, you know, from the sounds of it, he wasn't wanting to retire this offseason. What I'm guessing, though, is he and his agent called around and just, I'm going to guess that, and so, I guess before I get, or I'll just go ahead and say it. I guess teams weren't willing to sign to a contract because people were like Ron Rivera last year. Ron Rivera, and because Alex Smith did an interview with, I think it was GQ, earlier this offseason, that the Redskins didn't want him around last year. They didn't want him on the team. They didn't want to give him a chance. He felt like just some kind of financial burden, that he had put in all this work, and he felt like, and I mean, and they basically told him, and Ron Rivera did come out, I think Ron Rivera confirmed that he didn't necessarily say that he didn't want to give Smith a shot the way that Smith said it, but he said, I mean, if I put him in and he gets hurt again, I'm going to be the guy that got Alex Smith hurt again, that didn't do the smart thing and not let him play. You know, who made the decision for him, which, if Rivera had not had the stupid quarterback issues, Alex Smith never would have gotten that opportunity. His hand was forced, and thank goodness it was forced. And I just want to say, Ron Rivera was getting plaudits all year while this was going on, while he was basically, you know, sitting here behind the scenes telling Alex Smith, look, you're not playing for the first, or during training camp, first half of the year, while the organization is saying, like, we're not we're not putting ourselves at risk, our reputations at risk to let you try and play quarterback again, and take your life back after nearly dying. Ron Rivera was going through cancer treatments and getting plaudits and all this support for fighting cancer and coaching. So you're over here getting all this praise, all this recognition, all this support. But in the other corner, you have a guy who's going through kind of something similar. But no, and people could say, well, it's different coaching and playing. You're right. But I remember a few years back, Eric Berry got cancer. And he went through a different form of like chemo radiation therapy, using like some kind of tablets or whatever, something different. He was able to continue to train while doing it. And he was able to come back the next year, and he had the best season of his career, all-pro season, and honestly a borderline defensive player of the year candidate that year. I mean, all Alex Smith wanted was an opportunity to know for sure whether he was done or not. And while I'll say this, based on his play, he looked done. But he at least was making good decisions, smart decisions that Dwayne Haskins was incapable of making as a quarterback. And he was able to stay healthy, unlike Kyle Allen, who had not nearly died. Less than 2 years prior. Or like 2 years prior. So, I'm just saying, I think it's kind of crappy that Ron Rivera was telling this guy no while he's getting the chance to continue to live his life while going through cancer treatments. Like, I mean, it really is kind of crap, like really crappy sounding. And while I don't totally blame Ron Rivera, like, because I get it, but you know what you do if, say, Alex Smith does get hurt? You walk up to the press conference stand and you go, we can all sit here and say whatever we want and poo-poo about how we should have never let Alex Smith back on a football field. Alex put in so much work, so much effort, so much time to fight back and get back from that. The least we could do is he said, the least we could do is give him a shot because we had no one else at this point. Like, because of that, his hand was forced in that situation. But Alex made the choice to come back and fight for what for his dream and for his life. The least we could do was when he showed that he could at least do it on a practice field, is to give him a shot. Because that's what he wanted. He wanted to definitively know whether he could do it or not. And it would eat him up inside for the rest of his life if he never got the opportunity. Alex Smith got the opportunity. And I think he retired today probably because he proved he could get back. He didn't lose everything. That injury ended up not taking anything away from him because he did get his career back. He started, 7 games and played in 8 games last year and led a team on the road to coming back from a terrible start and getting to the playoffs. Won comeback player of the year. And while maybe it's not the ideal way to go out, and to me, I'm like, I kind of expected someone to sign to a contract to be a backup to mentor a young quarterback. There are a lot of people saying that the Jaguars would sign him to kind of mentor Trevor Lawrence, but to be honest, like they have Gardner Minshew there, who is an awesome backup, and while maybe won't be as thrilled to have Trevor there, Minshew seems like a really, or has always seemed like a really good dude. I don't think he's going to hold it against Trevor. But I wouldn't be surprised if Alex Smith has a great career in coaching ahead of him, because he's a very intelligent quarterback. So, with that being said, don't be shocked if you see him on a coaching staff this year or next year somewhere. But because of the Urban Meyer connections, a lot of people kind of expect to see him in Jacksonville. So, but congratulations to Alex Smith on a awesome career. He's a really, really good dude. Great family man. I hope he enjoys getting to spend, which, you know, I'm sure he spends lots of times with his kids, and he did during this rehab process, but, you know, he's going to get to focus on being a dad for, like, year-round. And from what it looks like, Peyton Manning has really been enjoying that the last few years. Because ever since he retired, the University of Tennessee and Tennessee fans have basically been begging him to become the head coach for the University of Tennessee, and he's like, nah. I'm gonna spend time with my kids, and I totally respect that. So, congratulations to Alex Smith. Kind of bummed he didn't end up at like a sage backup, quarterback somewhere, but hey. Okay. So, let's get into first news story of the day. A warrant has been issued for newly signed Seattle Seahawks defensive end Aldon Smith on battery charge in Louisiana. Let me square this up for where I'm going to be at. There we go. A warrant has been issued for the arrest of Seattle Seahawks defensive end Aldon Smith for an alleged second-degree battery that occurred in the New Orleans area on Saturday evening. St. Bernard Parish District Attorney Perry Nicosia confirmed. Nicosia said that Smith allegedly choked a victim unconscious during a confrontation that began inside a coffee house in Calumet, Louisiana, and that the warrant was signed by the court a day later. Oh, my leg's falling asleep. The alleged incident rises to a second-degree battery because the victim was rendered unconscious, according to Nicosia. He said the victim was taken to a hospital but did not have to stay overnight. New Orleans television station WDSU was first to report that Smith was wanted for the incident, adding that some of the incident was believed to be captured on video. Nicosia said he was not sure how much was captured on video. According to a wanted bulletin, shared, Smith does not have a local address but has relatives in the New Orleans area. Smith, 31, signed a one-year deal with the Seahawks just 2 days earlier. Let's see. Seahawks haven't commented. Before his return to the field, Smith missed more than 4 seasons because of an indefinite suspension. That's right. He was indefinitely suspended for 4 years because of multiple off-field incidents and violations of their substance abuse policies. Smith rose to stardom with a record 33.5 sacks in his first 2 NFL seasons. Let's see. Okay, this back part is part of an article when he got signed to the Seahawks. They put all this stuff, like all his past transgressions together. Last offseason, cornerback Quentin Dunbar was accused of armed robbery 2 months after the Seahawks acquired him in a trade. The NFL placed him on the commissioner's exempt list that removed him from the list after Broward, Florida prosecutors declined to file criminal charges against Dunbar because of insufficient evidence. Which that insufficient evidence was basically everyone who was saying that stuff had occurred changed their stories. Oh my goodness. I do not. Oh my god, I'm so tired of them putting this woman's video like on every single one of these articles about this. It's almost like they're trying to color everyone's opinions. Deshaun Watson's attorney files responses to 22 lawsuits against Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. Oh, wait, I read Deshaun Watson. My bad. Okay, attorney Rusty Hardin filed onslaught of cases. That's actually a very apt word. Simply non-true. Okay, so he described it as. Okay, let's see. Houston Texans quarterback's legal team has already uncovered evidence that numerous allegations in this onslaught of cases are simply not true or accurate. Not true or not accurate. Can something be true and inaccurate? Well, I guess it depends. There could be parts of the statement that are true, but their framing is inaccurate. Whatever. All right. From March 16th to April 14th, 23 lawsuits were filed against Deshaun Watson for inappropriate conduct and sexual assault. One lawsuit was dropped by a plaintiff for now, according to court documents, in light of privacy and security concerns. I mean, what is she scared that someone's going to send her a mean message over social media that's, going to be just a mean message over social media? And yes, one of the people who had been named, of the 2 people that was named previously, had shared in some documents where she had been threatened afterward on social media. Most of these people who do this stuff over social media, they're not going to do anything in real life. They're doing that over social media because they can't in real life. Also, seriously, don't threaten people on social media. You don't know what's going on in these cases. We can have our opinions. We can have our biases. We don't know. Also, just don't threaten people, period. But, as far as I'm concerned, and this is my opinion, this is not a fact that can be placed anywhere else, or whatever. My opinion here, if this suit really, if something really egregious happened to you, that you felt need of recompense, of justice, I feel like you'd slap your name on it in a heartbeat. At least I would. to me, that's a red flag that whatever you're doing, you don't think it's going to work or whatever. Because I have a feeling this person who decided not to name themselves and dropped their suit, I bet you we never hear from that person again. That "for now" is a threat. But I think it's an empty one. Because I think they would only do it if they didn't have to name themselves. The answer filed... So, back on this stuff. The answer filed Monday says the lawsuits filed against Watson are replete with mischaracterizations of his conduct. These range from being misleading to fraudulent to slanderous, the document says. Importantly, only 2 of the 22 lawsuits alleges that Mr. Watson forced any type of sexual activity, an allegation Mr. Watson, again, vehemently denies. And that is true. I have gone through all 22 allegations that are on the table. Only 2 of them say that he, or allege that he forced anyone to do anything. Now, if those 2 accounts are true, 1, those women deserve whatever recompense the civil courts choose to give them and whatever damages they force Watson to pay out, because civil lawsuits don't give criminal charges. Sorry, I've been looking at the screen. I didn't realize I had not put the article up. So, oh, whoops, there we go. So here's the article I'm reading from. But I want to repeat this. So actually, I'm going to go back to big screen mode now. Oh, I was hitting the wrong thing again. Civil lawsuits do not give, or civil courts do not give out legal punishments in terms of, like, these aren't criminal cases. There won't be criminal charges brought because of a civil court's findings or because of a civil court's decisions on civil lawsuits. It can lead to investigations that end up that way, but typically things actually go the other way around. Usually there's a criminal proceeding before there are civil proceedings. So, and burden of proof is different in civil and criminal courts, and some procedures are different, so there's that. And in civil courts, a lot of civil courts, the decidings are made specific or simply by the judge, whereas I believe criminal cases, pretty much every criminal case, unless there are plea deals and stuff, if it goes to trial, like, are decided by juries. I think there's different stuff. It just depends. Anyway. So, like I was saying, if Watson is, if the judge in this case, or whoever decides this case, decides that Watson is guilty of those 2 accusations of forced whatever, he's still not going to jail because it's a civil court. So I really don't understand why, depending on how long this attorney was sitting on these cases, why he did not go to the authorities. And actually, I can tell you exactly why. Well, I can't. That's false. In my opinion, why he didn't is because he didn't want the rules that would go around a criminal trial affecting the way he would go about banding this case around in the media. because there are stricter rules around criminal trials than civil lawsuits. So anyway, let's get back to the article. So only 2 of these allegations have any type of forced sexual activity alleged, which Mr. Watson again vehemently denies. Watson's legal response alleges that after 8 of the plaintiffs massaged Watson, all bragged about, praised, and were excited about massaging Mr. Watson. The document also says 7 plaintiffs willingly worked or offered to work with Mr. Watson after their alleged incidents. And I'm sure that they're putting these in there with evidence. 3 plaintiffs lied about the number of sessions they actually had with Watson. 3 plaintiffs lied about their alleged trauma and resulting harm. And 5 plaintiffs told others they wanted to get money out of Watson. Whoa! Do they have evidence? If they have evidence saying that 5 plaintiffs told others they wanted to get money out of Watson, that would that could have severe impacts on those specific 5 cases. I'm busy. Give me a second. Sorry about that. Someone needed me to do something for them because I'm not going to get into it. Anyway, where was I? Okay. The answer goes into detail rebutting allegations made by several of the women who filed lawsuits against Watson, naming 16 plaintiffs specifically. It was not until the plaintiffs saw an opportunity for money or for a money grab that they changed their stories to convert therapy sessions they bragged about to friends and family to something much more nefarious, Watson's answer alleges. Mr. Watson has been adamant. Let me once again make sure that my camera's in a good position. Yeah, that works. All right. Mr. Watson has been adamant that he did not engage in any inappropriate conduct, and we strongly believe him, Hardin said in a statement released Monday afternoon. Therefore, the answer to the question of whether we are saying that all 22 plaintiffs are lying about the allegations of sexual assault or sexual misconduct, because they're not all sexual assault, sexual misconduct by Mr. Watson is a resounding yes. Attorney Tony Busby, who is representing the 22 women in these lawsuits, said in a statement that Watson's only defense is to call these brave women liars. Yeah. Yeah. Because guess what? They might actually all be lying. We don't know. Attorneys take on cases for clients who will swear up and down that they didn't do anything, and then the evidence in the case shows that they absolutely did things, and that lawyer still has to represent them. But Busby could be being lied to. Busby may know that some of these women are lying or are changing their stories because sure, things happen, they just didn't happen the way that they're saying they happened. We're going to find that out in these cases based on whatever evidence is provided. But, I mean, Busby is saying or is trying to say this in a way that Watson's only defense is to call these brave women liars. It's well, yeah, because when people accuse you of things and you're saying you didn't do it, you're calling them liars. Yeah. Wow. Great. And we don't know if these are brave women yet or not. Because, I mean, if there's evidence of them bragging about these sessions, to me that shows you didn't do anything that bothered you. The weak and vague allegations made in defendant's response are demonstrably false. Watson can't deny he sought out an unusually high number of women for massages on Instagram. I don't think he's denying that. I don't think Watson's denying that he sought out massages. He's saying that things that happened during them didn't happen the way they're saying they are. Those are two totally different things. Let's see what else he says. He doesn't deny. Yeah, Watson can't deny because he's not denying. He doesn't deny he insisted on being nude or nearly nude. Okay. He can't deny the massage sessions occurred. Well, he is denying that some of the alleged sessions did occur, and I'm sure he's going to do that with proof. He's not denying that and by the way, Watson's not denying that he didn't have massage sessions with each and every one of these plaintiffs. But they did say up above that some of the sessions did not occur that they are alleging. He can't deny he wanted more than a massage, which, once again, they've stated that some consensual acts did occur. So he's not necessarily denying that he had sexual contact with any of these women. And he hasn't credibly denied that something bad happened during the session.
He instead claims that any sexual acts were consensual.
Okay, well, you saying that contradicts things that you just said earlier in your statement using terms doesn't and can't. So, okay. Because you can just change your mind after the fact nowadays. According to some people, you should be able to.
I have faith that the court process will sort out the truth as these matters progress,
Busby said. That I wholeheartedly agree with. That's all I care about.
Before the answer, Watson's lone comment came when he posted a statement on Twitter saying he had not seen the lawsuits, but had previously rejected a baseless six-figure settlement demand.
And see, that's the other thing. Before the lawsuits, they demanded, or at least he had come across at least some six-figure settlement demand. Which six figures? That would be anywhere between $100,000 and $999,000. Which to me, I mean, which that's a lot of money, but if they were wanting some kind of six-figure settlement for everyone in the case, or this was just for one of these, this is interesting. I have never treated any woman with anything other than the utmost respect, Watson said in his statement. Yeah, but treating people with utmost respect, or women with utmost respect, the utmost of respect might differ from person to person. Because me, utmost respect would be well, I've never really been one who liked making lewd comments to women, or, you know, I have never, potentially, which, if it find, like, the stuff he is alleged of doing, and even his version of events, I've never done anything like this. So, I think my measure for utmost respect of women is probably higher than his. So, anyway. And that's basically it. The NFL has launched its own investigation. I don't care about what the NFL is doing because they can't investigate anything correctly, nor do they try to. Okay, so, now this is an interesting story. So, it has been announced that some of the biggest teams in European club soccer are planning on starting their own Super League, European Super League. This has been rumored for several years now. So UEFA's Kafarian clubs breakaway, a spit in the face of all football lovers. Snakes at the heart of disgraceful Super League plan. Now, here's the thing. I get why a lot of people would be upset by this. I do. And there are supporters of a lot of these teams that are kind of upset too. At the same time, there's so much money in sports that it would make sense for the biggest clubs to find ways to compete consistently against each other the most often to make the most money and to draw the most eyes on TV and get that ad revenue. So UEFA president Alexander Kaferin. Okay, now I understand that title more. Which, remember, UEFA is the European governing body of, like, soccer and stuff like that. FIFA's upset about this, of course. FIFA, one of the most corrupt bureaucracies in all of the world, is upset by this. And you want to know why these groups are upset by this? Because these clubs are choosing to do something that benefits them and doesn't benefit these big governing bodies and takes money away and is basically keeping money out of these governing bodies' hands, whom are not elected by people. They just exist. UEFA and FIFA have had extensive corruption scandals. And as far as I'm concerned, these clubs are doing this because at the end of the day, who would want to be involved with a bunch of corrupt bureaucrats? They're doing things in their own self-interest. And guess what? If the money and the majority of fans end up supporting it, because here's the other thing. If all the fans hate it, this isn't going to work, and these teams are going to end up probably crawling back. You want to know why these groups are so mad? It's because they know this is going to work. They know this is going to work. So Alexander Kaferin, president of UEFA, has accused the 12 clubs behind a proposed European Super League of spitting in the face of football lovers and slammed the snakes at the center as he dismissed the plan to launch a rival to the Champions League as disgraceful and self-serving. Because the Champions League that UEFA runs is not disgraceful or self-serving, even though it has expanded multiple times and most of the participants aren't champions in any way. I mean, you have multiple countries that get 4 or more teams entered into this event every year. But you still call it the Champions League. You've had champions of the Champions League who didn't win a championship the previous year or that year. And by championship, I'm mostly meaning like their league, because that's how your status in the competition. If you win, there are 3 ways to get into the competition. Well, 3 ways to get into the competition, or maybe 4. For the smaller leagues, you have to win your championship. You have to be the champion of the league season. For the bigger leagues, they get multiple spots depending on how strong their league is perceived to be. And the champion and so many other people get in. And then I think a couple of the leagues, they have teams, they play a play-in between like the 3rd or 4th or the 5th or 6th team to get a spot or whatever. But I might be wrong about that. It might just be like, say, the top 4, whatever. Then you have whoever won the Champions League last year automatically gets in. So if they qualify, I believe that means, say, if you won the Champions League, maybe you're in one of those qualification spots for your league. I think your league just loses that spot then. But I might be wrong. They may just extend it down 1. I don't know. I'd have to look into that a little harder. The other way is to win what is known as the Europa League. So the Europa League, I know for the Premier League, they've historically been getting like 4 teams, I think, every year in, and then the 5th and 6th teams qualify for the Europa League. Well, the Europa League starts after, I think it starts after the Champions League, like, qualification rounds. So they whittle it down from, like, there's all these groups of 4 and the top 2 teams from the group stage advance. I think then the teams that drop out of the Champions League group stages get added to the Europa League, and then the Europa League tournament starts. And whoever wins that gets an automatic qualification for the Champions League. So with that, all that being said, it's a big money grab competition. UEFA makes a ton of money off of this, and it's, well, basically their biggest money competition. It's that and and FIFA's involved in like the international soccer stuff, but I think UEFA does put on, if I'm not mistaken, UEFA does put on the tournaments between its nations. But I might be wrong. I might need to look into that. So anyway, Kafarin, who has overseen the remodeling of the Champions League from 32 teams to 36, starting in 2024-25, which spoke publicly for the first time since the ESL unveiled their blueprint for a new competition on Sunday, which they might go into it later in the article. Let's see. What does Super mean league? Let's see, what time is it? 3:24. I might not do any drafts coverage stuff today. We'll see. I'm actually going to pull this article up and check it out after this. The initiative has been condemned by fans, football organizations. It's been condemned by some fans. I actually think there are probably a lot of people who probably don't care or actually are kind of excited for it. National leaders with UEFA and FIFA strongly opposed. Well, you know what? No one cares should care what UEFA and FIFA think if they're strongly opposed. Actually, if they're strongly opposed, it's probably a great idea. Because UEFA and FIFA are corrupt pieces of crap organizations. And I don't care if they've restructured or got new people involved. They still have extreme histories of corruption, and most of the people who are leading it now were involved in the organizations when the corruption was going on. Speaking during a Zoom media conference in Switzerland, Kafarin condemned Juventus chairman Andreas Agnelli and Manchester United executive vice chairman Ed Woodward, who helped organize the ESL, and resigned from their roles in the European Club Association, the body that brings together 246 major clubs. But there's reasons for this. So there is so much money in sports, and there's tons and tons and tons of money in international soccer. But what has happened in recent years is they put these regulations in play that mostly affect the bigger clubs. It's called financial fair play. Well, the original idea, or what they always have said the idea was so it would protect what is become is a means of limiting the buying power of bigger clubs, which this idea of trying to save the parity of the sport, which it hasn't affected that at all. But what was happening kind of even as recently as a decade ago, but really more 15, 20 or so years ago, there were these people who would buy into teams and spend a ton of money, but they would accrue it as debt against the club and not themselves. And when the team didn't win, and or profits didn't come in to kind of recoup that debt, these guys would sell the teams off and escape without the debt and leave the debt strapped to the clubs, and it would destroy some of these clubs. Like, say, it's what's dragged down formerly historically great club like Newcastle United in England. And I believe something similar might have happened to Fulham, but what it tended to do is that some of these smaller clubs or clubs in smaller towns or cities that were really good before, back when there wasn't as much money in the sport. Now, with everything being more internationalized and being able to get more talent from, say, outside of your region and even country or continent, bigger clubs have had a little more. They have the ability to spend more and bring in more resources like that, while also keeping more talent kind of in their local regions, because they set up these big academies for young players. So instead of them maybe developing and staying in their hometowns and ending up with like the kind of closest club, they end up at like a Manchester United, a Manchester City, a Chelsea, an Arsenal, a Tottenham. So anyway, but the idea and really the need for the financial fair play stuff was to keep teams from spending beyond their means and accruing debt that would end up destroying the club and potentially hurting a league and hurting the sport. What it has become, though, is a means to limit spending from people who do have the ability to spend that kind of money. And it very much seems like, and while part of sports is competition, and, you know, when one team is so much more dominant than others, like this idea of it destroying parity, for several years, unlike in, say, the college ranks where you're only getting them for a year. UConn didn't win the title this year. They didn't even play in the championship game this year, even though they had probably the best player in the country. And probably the greatest collection of recruited talent, according to recruiting experts and whatnot. They didn't win. And even though it seems like UConn would have a monopoly on the sport, there have been a lot of programs that have done well over the years against them. In men's basketball, Gonzaga did get Jalen Suggs this year, who was one of the top recruits in the country. But historically speaking, like, they're not getting, like, they don't get top 10 recruits that often. They get a lot of international guys. They do get good players that come in, but they develop most of their players. But they've been as successful or more successful. But Notre Dame went to the ACC, and they bring in good recruiting classes, but they have severe academic things that you have to uphold, and they're not always like, they're not constantly like a top 5, and a lot of years aren't even a top 10 recruiting school. And you've had a bunch of other schools that have had success despite not being like top 10 recruiting schools typically, like what Chip Kelly did with Oregon. Or you look at the Boise State TCUs of like the 2000s and early 2010s. Or trying to force parity in some kind of way is stupid. And it hurts teams. And I'm doing a very basic and not fully, I don't have like the financial fair play rules and regulations all laid out in front of me, and I don't know them all intimately. I just know that it seems like any chance that UEFA and FIFA can take a shot at some of these major clubs, specifically Barcelona, Real Madrid. Well, they protect Real Madrid more than some of these others, but it seems like everyone tries to go after Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester City, Chelsea has, and just it seems like they try to go after these teams. So I get this idea of parity, but part of the issue is if there are teams that are so much more successful than other teams, it's probably a good idea to maybe create a league that where there is more parity. And have these other, which the idea is these other smaller clubs do get helped by getting revenue shares from leagues and being in proximity to these bigger clubs, but at the same time, the English Premier League has gotten to the point where there's basically a ring of teams that are basically guaranteed to stay in. Well, there's this group of teams that are going to compete for the title. There are these teams that are basically, they're never going to get relegated, but they're not really going to contend. Then you've got this group that probably aren't ever going to get, or probably won't get relegated, but they're still going to probably perennially be bottom of the half of the table. And then you have this relegation zone where those teams, maybe some of them stay for a couple years or so, but they're just going to get relegated eventually. And then the next team that comes in is just going to get relegated eventually. So it's like sometimes things become stagnant. So I don't know. I don't necessarily love the idea of the Super League either. But I don't know. Because the biggest argument you could have is like, well, but what about the rivalries? And I'm like, well, from what I'm seeing, Chelsea's biggest rivals are going to be in the league. Because Manchester City, Manchester United, Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, all involved in this. Liverpool is I don't think I saw Liverpool. Didn't see Everton. So Liverpool and Everton are still going to have their derby. City United still going to have that derby. United and Chelsea, Arsenal and Tottenham, Arsenal Chelsea, Tottenham Chelsea. Like these big clubs are still going to be together. From England, Real Madrid and Barcelona are still going to play the crap out of each other. Atletico Madrid, also part of this. Juventus and Inter are still going to be a part of this. The biggest thing is, like, if Liverpool's not a part of this, you wouldn't get Manchester United Liverpool or City Liverpool, which has been big lately. But Liverpool versus Everton, the Liverpool derby, still going to exist. And that doesn't mean that these Super League clubs, well, unless bureaucrats decide to stop this from happening, scheduling games against other teams outside the league. I cannot stress more strongly at the moment that UEFA and the football world stand together alongside this disgraceful, stand alongside each other. He left out a word because he's not speaking English, or not an English speaker natively, against this disgraceful self-serving project from a select few clubs in Europe, fueled by greed above all else, Kafarin said. Because the Champions League is not fueled by greed above all else. Give me a break. This idea is a spit in the face of all football lovers and our society as well. What does this have to do with society? What? We must not let them take football away from us. They're not taking... I'm sorry. I didn't realize these people starting a Super League was just going to end this sport, like, for everyone. I didn't realize this. Oh my goodness. This is some horse crap. Give me a break. I have seen many things in my life. I was a criminal lawyer for 24 years. I've seen many people. I've never seen anyone like that. This is a man speaking for his own self-interest and for the self-interest of the people that have elected him in charge, who are not elected officials, but a bunch of rich people making money for themselves. Do not listen to this charlatan. If you don't like the Super League, that's fine. I actually am totally okay with that, because you like things the way they are. I'm fine with, honestly, I'm kind of fine with the way things are right now. But these are teams who, they're businesses, and they're doing what they believe is best for their businesses. And you can say that's greed. But UEFA is a business, and they're standing against this because this is going to hurt their business, not because of some moral grandstanding. Because as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing amoral about this. Or, I mean, there's nothing like immoral about this. This is amoral. This is silly. Which plan for European football is best? Oh, they've got a poll here. You know what? Just out of spite, I'm choosing the Super League because I don't care. And I don't care that I'm in the minority there because this is still probably, let's see. Oh, wow. 55,000 votes. Like, I don't necessarily want to see things change. Like, I like the domestic leagues and whatnot. But it's also one of these things of, like, they're not going to change the things that matter because the changes to revamp the Champions League aren't doing anything for these bigger clubs. And if anything, these big clubs are in so many competitions, but their rosters are limited to where, and there have been more limitations put in recent years on them, to where it's hard for them to do what they're, or to be as good in all of these competitions. Let's see. If I start with Ed Woodward, but he called me, what? If I start with Ed Woodward, but he called me last Thursday saying that he's very satisfied with reforms and he fully supports them. Obviously, he already signed something else. Once again, this people speaking English who don't use it properly. I would rather him spoke it in his own language and had someone translate it. Unless this is the translation, and if that's the case, then this translation makes no sense. But it's in quotes, so I'm assuming not. I mean, and he can be satisfied with the reforms you're making because it doesn't matter to him because he's leaving. Agnelli is probably the biggest disappointment of all. I don't want to be too personal, but I have never seen a person who lied so many times as persistently as he did. I spoke to him on Saturday, and he said these were only rumors. Because at that point in time, they were only rumors because nothing official had been said. Nothing going on. You want to know what? Yeah, he may have lied to you because he knew if he said something, you were probably going to do whatever you could to. You were immediately going to go to the media before they'd even announced anything. Then he turned off the phone. Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was being sarcastic. Like, oh, these are just rich people complaining about other rich people doing stuff. So stupid. Greediness is so strong that all the human values evaporate. It's always good to know in life who is who. And I'm going to be honest. Let me see. I want to go back to where it said where he said, I was a criminal lawyer for 24 years. Now, does that mean he was a prosecutor or was he a defense attorney? Because prosecutors and defense attorneys are potentially scummy in different ways. Prosecutors will send innocent people to prison just to get a win and to look good on their resume, to get ahead on the prosecutorial side. Defense attorneys will defend people that they know are, or that they potentially know are guilty, and basically protect bad people from getting the punishment they deserve. So either way, this guy, whichever side he was on in criminal law, like, this guy's talking about greediness. It's like, so you're willing to either put away people who were innocent or defend pieces or big old piles of human excrement for money, for your own financial gain? That's not greed. But then again, I guess he would then know someone else driven by greed and passion for wealth, because he's driven by greediness too. Sorry, I'm tearing this guy a new one because I just think this is all just stupid. Kefarian confirmed that any players who played in the ESL would be banned from participating in future international tournaments, including the World Cup. So, and this is what they mean by killing soccer. They're going to blame it on the ESL, but no, they're going to destroy soccer or football, international football, just to spite these clubs taking more money for themselves and not paying dues and giving money to these organizing bodies of soccer. That's all this is. This is about UEFA and FIFA's greed. Because if it was really about what's best for soccer, there would be no impact on the international game. There would be no impact on that. Like, you're punishing players. The players aren't making these decisions. The players who will play in teams that might play in the closed league will be banned from playing in World Cup and Euros, Kefarian said. They could not represent national teams in any matches. That is insane. And anyone who defends this guy or this proposal from them is a moron. We didn't know we had snakes working close to... You know what? You're right. You didn't know. Because people like you worked alongside a bunch of snakes for years and years and years, and apparently didn't know there was so much corruption in FIFA and all these organizations. So why are we surprised that you didn't know that you had snakes among you now? Oh my gosh. We didn't know we had snakes working so close to us, but now we know, Kefarian added.
Super League is only about money of the dozen, whatever. I don't want to call them dirty dozen, but UEFA is about developing football and about financing what should be financed. That our football, our culture survives, and some people don't understand it. Financing what should be financed. So you are the arbiters of what should be financed. Dude, someone kicked this guy off of his dang high horse. Seriously, I hope this man, when he decides to step down from that high horse, he trips, breaks his neck, falls down like enough stairs to brutalize a bunch of his vital organs, and he just ends up in the hospital for the rest of his life. That was figurative because I'm using a high horse example. I just mean this guy has some ego, and it needs to be severely bruised. We have the English FA, Spanish Federation, Italian Federation, the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, and FIFA unanimous in opposition to these cynical plans, which are completely against what football should be. We are all united against this nonsense of a project. See, what's funny about this is the Premier League, when it happened, this same poo-pooing happened about the English Premier League in the early 90s. Same thing. The same exact thing. All the English Premier League did was help rocket football to a bigger global audience. The Premier League is the most dominant force in club in like the what's it? The domestic club competitions. It's bigger than La Liga. Yes, Barcelona and Real Madrid are in La Liga, which makes things big, but on a whole, out of the domestic leagues, the Premier League head and shoulders above everything else. And the Premier League, of course, Spanish FA. Or I can't wait when this happens for the Spanish FA to turn around once the Super League happens and see them start arguing for being allowed to use the players in the Super League for their teams, because basically for a long period of time, most of the starters and half the team came from Barcelona and Real Madrid. They also would have players, of course, from Atletico Madrid. So there's the three biggest clubs in Spain, and we can't use any of their players. We can't use players playing for, say, or that they would need from Manchester City, because of course Manchester City has Rodri. I believe Rodri is Spanish and not, or is he Argentinian? I think he's Spanish. Because all these national teams and all these federations are going to get pissed off when they can't use those players. Like England. England's immediately going to start lobbying to be able to use the best English players. Phil Foden is one of the, and Marcus Rashford are the tent-pole players for the future England national team. They play for City and United. And this Super League is going to happen. They're not going to reverse course. And this article that I found that came off of this, let's see, I think that's this one. Well, if it'll load. Let's see. Should be this one. What?
Well, that's great. I love when stuff like this happens. What if I... and then hit... Well, basically the headline was that these clubs and the ESL, the people who are organizing it, didn't read the room, and that they are making a big mistake. I'm just going to put it this way. Most people don't like change. Okay, am I back? But yeah, but those same people, they okayed the last couple steps, and they end where they said they would never go. Now, I'm not one of these people that every time someone says we're doing something in the sake of progress, that I'm totally okay with it, because you can progress in the wrong direction. You can, if I walk forward for long enough in a line, I'm going to walk into a canyon, walk into the ocean, and drown myself. Whereas if I stayed where I was, I would be well fed, well protected from the sun, in a nice place, have all the amenities I could need. I know I'm using a physical example here for something philosophical, but just because you're taking a step, progressing in a direction, doesn't mean you're progressing in a good direction. Just because you're moving away from something doesn't mean that you're not moving away from something that is actually good. Or at least better than the alternatives. So, with that being said, I don't know if the ESL is a step in a good direction or not. Obviously, these clubs have decided that it is a good step for them. And just because it's not a good step for you, maybe, or what you want, doesn't mean that it's still not the right decision for them. It seems like everyone in the world wants to use arbitrary lines of my truth, your truth, whatever. Live your truth or whatever. But they hate it when someone else's truth doesn't align with their truth. Then it's a problem. It's okay for them to fly in the face of what everyone else wants. But the second someone else flies in the face of what they want, does something that just goes totally against what they want, we've got to be upset. UEFA is trying to create and FIFA and all these people are trying to create some kind of moral outrage. And there are a lot of people who are fans who are upset. And you know what? If you're so upset about it, let them do it and don't watch. Don't do anything. That's the problem. People want things to stay the same, but they're still going to go. They're still going to buy tickets to games. They're still going to go and buy jerseys, and they're just going to go with it anyway. They don't want to change, but they will when they're forced to. No one actually lives by any conviction that makes sense anymore. People hate, or there are people who are upset with the way this person's doing this or this or this. Instead of just not buying something, say, I see all these people who complain about, well, they're changing all of the comic stuff, or I don't like this. But then they still go out and buy the comics, so they still support this movie or this or this. Or all these people who are upset with, I hear all these people who are upset with or all these people who have severe opinions on the culture war. Whatever side they're on. Instead of just not supporting these things anymore, they fight tooth and nail to get them to do what they want them to do. How about just build something new? Or
fight. But when they decide, if the company decides that, or whoever it is decides that they're not going in your direction, jump ship. Stop fighting for something that is lost. Or stop fighting for something that isn't worth fighting for. I mean, these are sports teams. Okay, they go. Pick a new team. Support someone else. It's like all of you decide to support some smaller club that's in your area and put all your money into it. Because guess what? Then they're going to replace that other team as the financially dominant force. That's what you do. Let these teams go off and create this Super League. Fund their replacement. Fund their competitors. That's what you do. Don't whine. Actually, don't whine and try and hold people back from making the decision you don't want them to make. Let go of them. At some point, if you have reasoned with this person, if you've expended everything, but also don't cut off your nose to spite your face. Let them fail, but leave the door open for a return as well. Don't alienate someone. Just say, well, we can't follow you. Now, I would say, to UEFA, don't ban the players from those teams from these national competitions. I think that's stupid. Because I think, in that case, you're cutting your own nose off. Don't do something that's going to hurt you too. But anyway, I'm going to move on from that, but I'm going to keep following this because this is interesting to me. So let's see. Oh, so here's something fun. The Cincinnati Bengals unveil new jerseys for first time since 2004. Finally. Please tell me there are pictures in here. I wonder if I can watch this Twitter video and not get demonetized or get some kind of warning. We're about to find out. Oh, here we go. I'm going to mute it because there's copyrighted music. It might hurt me. Let's full screen this. So, wait, whoa. Ocho. So their new jerseys look super generic. So they basically are keeping the same helmet. Okay, whatever that dance was. What was that? The old grandpa with a shuffling on his little, what's that thing called? I don't know. Anyway, joke failed. So apparently that's the Bengals' new uniforms. Let's freeze frame on that last. Sponsored by Tide. Why would you lens flare over the top of your jerseys? See, this is bad. This is bad marketing right here. You don't cover up what you're marketing with lens flare. You idiot. And you keep it clear. Look at the lighting here. You have this nice profile shot of everything, And it's ruined by bad lighting and bad camera technique. Oh, that's frustrating. Like, this isn't a movie scene. You are literally marketing something that you are trying to sell to people. And you're obfuscating it. So let's see. I mean, this is my thing, which the sides of the pants aren't really being showed off here like they were earlier, but these are really bland. Like, I kind of like the idea with the pants stripes, but I'm seeing they don't have orange pants for these, so no solid color. And I kind of like a lot of solid color stuff. They have less stripes overall on the uniform. To me, they should have gone with something way bolder than this, and I don't know, what's the point in changing your jerseys unless, you're just trying to sell new ones, but you're not really trying to get people to really. These uniforms excite me, Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow said. I'm sure he's so excited over the uniforms. I honestly bet he doesn't care. So, I'm going to end the show, kind of see if there's any interesting little news bits before I sign off that I didn't get to earlier. Gonzaga star guard to enter NBA draft. Okay. First month of Packers OTAs to be virtual. Whoa, what in the world is that jumping around for? Sources, quarterback Milton exits Michigan for Tennessee. That interests me because I'm a Tennessee fan. Okay, so this was the first page. Let's hit the NFL headlines real quick and NBA right after. Because most of that was football related, but Warrant out, Mahomes, So Mahomes ahead of schedule after his toe surgery. That's good to hear. Brady had said that he was feeling really good during his rehab from a minor offseason knee procedure. I don't know if there's a minor offseason or like surgery for a quarterback, almost in their mid-40s. Okay. So let's see. Let's hit the NBA headlines real quick. So Suggs, no surprise, entering the draft. NBA outlines summer dates for free agency. That's interesting. I might get into that tomorrow. Vaccinated personnel can travel abroad. Anton Pippen, oldest child of Scotty, dies at 33. Oh, that sucks. Sources, NBA ready for impact of Chauvin verdict. I'm not going to get into that case because it has nothing to do with sports, really. But they have announced that they are prepared for the potential postponement movement of games in case of, the aftermath of when the Chauvin verdict is released. Which, whatever. Is there anything I wanted to... Let's check out these NBA offseason dates. Free agent negotiations can... NBA free agent negotiations can begin August 2nd. NBA free agency ahead of the season will begin on Monday, August 2nd at 5 p.m. Central, with contracts allowed to be officially signed on Friday, August 6th at 12:01 p.m. Eastern, or so 11:01 p.m. or a.m. Central, the league said, which is just stupid. The legal tampering period. In the wake of the league saying last month that the NBA draft will take place July 29th. The draft lottery will be held June 21st, 27th. So they're getting close to the old schedule. Because previously the NBA draft would occur the last. It would usually occur like June 28th, 29th, whatever the last Thursday or Friday of June would be, right after the finals end. And then free agency would start like a week later or so, like during the first week of July. So that probably means that next summer of 2020 will probably be back to the old schedule. So with that being said, old college football news. Former Michigan QB Joe Milton chooses Tennessee, sources say, was in college football transfer portal since February. He is scheduled to graduate in May, meaning he'd be able to play for us this season. The Vols are looking for a starting quarterback as they transition to first-year coach Josh Heupel's new up-tempo offense. Milton was a starter for Michigan in 2020. In 5 starts, he passed for 1,077 yards with 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, but was replaced in Michigan's final game a year ago. It wasn't a year ago. It would have been last season if he played in 2020. It hadn't been a full year. The 6'5", 243-pound Milton will have 3 years of eligibility remaining and is listed as an active student in the Tennessee Student Directory. He's on track to begin his academic studies at Tennessee with the summer semester. VolQuest.com first reported. So I guess cool. A mediocre Michigan quarterback. Oh man, I had my big face up so nobody saw the Bengals uniforms. Oh well, or that. So anyway, I guess I'll end by giving my thoughts on this quarterback transfer for Tennessee, and then I'll close the show out. I don't care, because to be completely honest, I care more about Harrison Bailey, who played for us last year, who was a freshman, who I thought looked really good. I can't remember if JT Shrout transferred out or not. I would need to check. I think he did. He looked pretty good, but I preferred Bailey. And we have this guy who is transferring in, former 5-star recruit from Virginia Tech, who is a dual threat monster. And I expect the competition between him and Bailey. I don't think this Milton guy is going to be the guy. 6'5", 243, he'd have to be a pretty good athlete at that size, I think, to be ideal for Heupel. Maybe he is more athletic than Bailey. I thought Bailey wasn't necessarily like some kind of super dual threat quarterback or anything, but I liked his decision making and he was really accurate. I'm excited about his future. But this Jackson guy, I think it's Justin Jackson, who's transferred from Virginia Tech, dude looks really legit. I think he's perfect for what Heupel wants out of his quarterback. So, with that being said, he's the guy. He's a pretty exciting player. Milton, he started 5 games, threw for barely 200 yards a game, 4 TDs, 4 picks. Real impressive. So, I mean, or he transfers in, he's great, and I mean, if he ends up being really good, cool. I just don't think he's going to end up being the guy. So with that being said, thanks for tuning in to the stream. If you are watching this on the archive, I appreciate you checking it out and getting this far and listening the whole way through. If you liked the show, please hit like. It really helps the channel. Please leave a comment. I do read comments. If you want to keep up with the channel, obviously, please hit that subscribe button and then hit the bell notification next to subscribe. Click all, and
That way you are always notified when I go live and if I start uploading videos. So thank you very much. I hope y'all have a great rest of your Monday. I will be here 2 p.m. tomorrow, 2 p.m. Central Time tomorrow with more, probably more draft related content tomorrow. I'm going to be keeping updated. It's like, please come. I will keep you updated on anything going on in the Watson case. I will have hot takes about any new uniforms dropped that I see in sports because I'm big on the aesthetic part. Please go check out the Cincinnati Bengals uniforms for yourselves. They're not bad, but I also don't think they're any better than what they had. Actually, they're not as good, in my opinion, as what they had. They could have done so much more, and they didn't. It seems like we're getting into an era where we're just going to... Unless we're the Los Angeles Chargers and the Los Angeles Rams, we're not going to do anything actually interesting with their uniforms. We're just going to find some kind of way to do a newer, maybe slightly showier, bland version of a uniform. We're not going to do what the NBA is doing and come up and like drop some really cool like uniform concepts. It's just going to be boring. Because like, I mean, the Bengals uniforms, they just kind of look boring. They at least kept their helmet, but like, to be honest, their helmet went better with their older jerseys than they do with the new ones. Like, I was really kind of hoping I was going to see like them kind of keep a similar concept, but simplify the color patterns on the concept. Just have like a orange jersey with like orange stripes at the top. Or I mean, an orange jersey with like just black stripes across the shoulders or whatever. I think that would have been cool. And maybe actually putting like tiger stripes in a way on the pants, kind of like they did in this one. But no orange pants, so there's the only way you're going to get a solid color from them is the black or white jerseys, and I don't know. Anyway, and keep in tune for maybe some out of time streams where maybe I do some different other stuff. So